What's the connection between this beautiful Bengaluru tree-lined avenue and India's Akash missiles? This is the road that leads to the original electronic city. Does the name ring a bell? Bharat Electronics Limited, BEL, was India's first electronics factory set up at the end of this road way back in 1954. And they design and build radar, avionics, electronic warfare systems, sonars, and integrate the Akash missile and the Akash Ter air defense systems. I'm here to tell you about a digital device that they make that is probably the most used device in the world over the last 30 years with over 3 billion users. And almost all adult Indians have definitely used it at least once. Can you guess what I'm talking about? Let's go to the science gallery to find out. I'm talking about the EVM, or the electronic voting machine. India was the first country in the world to use an EVM for an actual election way back in 1982 in Kerala. Just a few months after IBM launched its first personal computer, or the PC, in New York. The EVM replaced these ballot boxes, the original workhorses of Indian elections from 1952, when we had these large ballot papers with lots of candidates which had to be marked with the pen and folded and inserted. You can imagine the issues. The booth could be captured and the ballot box could be stuffed. And the entire process of printing, carrying, counting took a long time and was very expensive. So India decided to address this issue way back in the 1970s. If you think about it, it's quite unique because most of the world's major democracies still use the ballot box and paper even today, over 50 years later. So how did we get from here to here? It's a very interesting story and it involves BEL. In fact, Bharat Electronics Limited used to have their own elections for their unions and they decided that there were a lot of problems in it. And so BEL decided to create a EVM for their own internal elections. And it was so successful that a local bureaucrat actually suggested it to the Election Commission of India and they decided to improve it and they tried it out as a pilot in an election in Kerala in 1982. And there's this beautiful video at the Science Gallery featuring Captain Prabala, the former managing director of BEL, who's written this authoritative book on the history of BEL, where he talks about this process of how the union elections were conducted using EVMs and how this experiment was taken to the government of India and eventually resulted in the EVM that we use today. In 1988, a team from IIT Bombay was asked to develop a robust EVM based on the success of the trials of the devices used by BEL and another company called ECIL. And they were given just 1 year to get it done in time for the 1989 general elections. The story of how the EVM evolved from the ballot box to this is very fascinating. Once the basic electronic design had been made by BEL, this design was provided to IIT Bombay's IDC, or Industrial Design Center, headed by Professor A.G. Rao, who was tasked with actually designing an EVM prototype based on that design, and they were given a very short time. And what they did was they went and studied the Indian ballot box, he and his team of designers at the IDC, to try to see how this would work in Indian conditions. Now the electronic design is fine, but the entire form and function is also crucial. And what they came up with is this. It's very sturdy, it's tough. It uses batteries, so it can operate even in places without electricity. It can handle heat, and you might find it interesting. The button that is used is in an elliptical shape. It's almost like a thumb impression for an Indian. They also had to use neutral colors, nothing had to be controversial. A lot of thought went into it. And Professor Ravi Povaya, also on the team, he talks about how they had to use engineering plastics. They had to try to use low-cost materials that were locally sourced so that the entire cost of the product would be quite low. The professor tells an interesting story that when he was making a presentation to the bureaucrats, he apparently took up the case and he dropped it and said, "See, nothing's happened." But the bureaucrat was not impressed. He said, you dropped it on a carpeted floor. So he said, "Do you want me to drop it from a second floor window?" And that's when he convinced the people. And so the professors at IIT Bombay had to go through a very long process of convincing everybody that not only is this reliable, it also works. They are the real heroes behind the design. And I'm proud to say, I'm told that Professor A.G. Rao is from Bengaluru and Professor Ravi Povaya is from nearby Kodagu. The challenges were not just technical, they were also legal. A constitutional amendment had to be passed in early 1989 to actually permit electronic voting for the general elections in India. And even though they managed to finish the work in time, There was no political consensus and so it was not used in the 1989 elections, and we had to wait until 1998 where EVMs were used for the first time in a limited way in a national election in India. As with all new products, it takes time to build trust, and we had to wait until 2004 when all 543 constituencies actually used EVMs for voting. An astounding and incredible achievement. And using an EVM has become so routine now that we forget how pioneering and incredible this is. This is a product designed by Indians, in India, for India and for Indians. And it's completely paperless, so there's no need for printing, for transporting of paper. And that has resulted in huge cost savings to the Indian government. And the best part, it can declare results in a matter of a few hours. Can it be hacked? Is this tamper-proof? You know, this is just like a calculator, a counting machine. It is not connected to any other device and you cannot access this remotely. And as the professor from IIT Bombay says, if you really want to tamper with an Indian general election, you need to tamper with about 1 million such devices at the time of production. And interestingly, they have come up with a way to deal with even that very improbable situation. And so the elections have been safe, and so since we have elections so often, the EVM keeps getting tested. And by 2010, interestingly, all the political parties agreed that the EVM is here to stay. But some of them requested for something in addition, a way to verify the vote of a person on paper. And so we came up with this new product called the VVPAT, or the Voter Verifiable Paper Audit Trail. It's an independent system that is linked to the EVM that allows the voter to see the vote that he or she has just cast. Between 2004 and 2024, India had multiple elections and the EVM proved that it was reliable. In fact, 2024 was the largest election held anywhere in the world. India has over 943 million voters, which is more voters than all of USA, all of Europe and all of South America combined. India's democracy is not just the world's largest and most complex by far, it is also the most digital. And guess what? That purple ink which all Indians get on their finger after voting is made in a single plant in nearby Mysore. They use a secret formula which prevents washing off and also stops double voting. We need to be really proud of the fact that India was the first country in the world to attempt a digital EVM even before the IT revolution began. And over 50 years later, we have improved upon the product that we first made, and we still use it in as large and complex a democracy as ours. And interestingly, not many other countries have done this, and those that tried did not fully succeed and have gone back to paper and ballot box voting. So this is something we should be incredibly proud of. And next time you are on New Bell Road, remember, this is where we develop the hardware and the software that secures our borders and powers our democracy.